Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we're going to dive deep into a controversial and surprising issue. Meghan Markle caught the world's attention when she claimed that the UK is a racist country. But is she truly seeing the issue correctly? After all, both the head of the UK and the mayor of London have darker skin than she does. Does this mean the reality is different from what she's saying? What's even more interesting is that someone with dark skin like us, or even a heterosexual man, has never faced racial discrimination. In fact, they might face more prejudice for being a heterosexual man than for the color of their skin. So is Meghan fabricating a story, or is she trying to complicate things further? Let's explore the full truth right now. Don't forget to leave a comment with 1 if you resonate with this story, or 0 if you have a different perspective. Share your thoughts with us, like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss what happens next, where we'll reveal all the secrets in this story. She attacked an institution with a long history, one filled with many patriotic individuals who have dedicated their lives to serving the community and upholding long-standing values. Attacking and damaging this institution will undoubtedly cause many to feel dissatisfied and disillusioned with her, especially those who wish to live in a world free of racism where everyone is treated fairly and equally. And this is something I was taught from a young age. We should not be obsessed with someone's race, but instead we should judge people by their actions, virtues, and contributions to society. If you agree with this philosophy, you could be labeled as racist because in some cases, simply stating that race should not be overemphasized could make you a target of criticism. And I feel that Meghan has taken advantage of this to further her own agenda. Prince Harry don't say anything more because he has become Meghan's companion, and in the eyes of many, he is no longer himself. Andrew Tate did not hold back in criticizing Meghan Markle, calling her the downfall of Prince Harry, and a prime example of a manipulated victim, someone who cannot escape the shadow of another person. Tate believes Meghan has lured Harry into a life from which he cannot escape, transforming him from a royal figure into a shadow of his former self, and this, in his view, is a clear case of sophisticated manipulation. Tate does not hesitate to attack fiercely, not only pointing out the issue, but also expressing a strong opinion on Meghan's influence over Harry. According to him, this is not a tragic fairy tale, but a complete cultural theft. He asserts that Meghan has ruined Harry, turning him from a prince into a joke. She destroyed Harry, Tate bluntly states. He was a prince, now he's just a joke. In Tate's view, Meghan has not only stripped Harry of what he once had, but has also reduced him to a shadow of his former self, clearly demonstrating the sophisticated manipulation on her part. Tate emphasizes that change and evolution are necessary every day in life, but he asserts that he is not a force for good. In fact, he believes he is merely a force for the truth, and the truth is what is good. Tate views that society must confront the truth regardless of criticism and opposition. He does not shy away from criticizing the manipulation he believes Meghan has exercised over Harry. In Tate's eyes, Harry's abandonment of his place in the royal family to accept a life from which he cannot escape is a surrender, a change that has neither evolution nor real freedom. Whether you admire Tate's bluntness or think he's dangerously provocative, one thing is undeniable. He's voicing what millions of people whisper behind closed doors. Tate is diving straight into the most sensitive issue of the conversation: race. While the media often portrays Meghan as a victim of persistent racism, Tate boldly calls BS on that. She's lighter than me, and I've never cried over racism, he yells. The idea that she's hated because of her skin color is not just wrong, it's laughable. I'm not concerned about that. I refuse to live in an absolute fantasy world. Tate doesn't just dismiss the allegations of racism, he burns them. According to Tate, using race as a shield to avoid criticism is not only dishonest, but also an insult to those who truly endure racial prejudice. Be realistic, he says. People don't dislike Meghan because of her background. They dislike her because she's self-righteous, condescending, and plays the victim. We are on the verge of an absolute authoritarian and slave-like state, and it feels like we are beginning to push back against it. My cancellation is the beginning of a shift in public perception. Elon Musk having Twitter is another start similar to Tate's statements breaking through like a ram. For years, the public's hesitation to criticize Meghan stemmed from fear. Tate argues that this silence, rooted in fear, has allowed her to create an untouchable persona, one that makes her immune to responsibility. You can't challenge her. You can't question her, he says, because if you do, suddenly you become the villain. In Tate's view, justifying why she isn't liked by most is an evasion. Meghan Markle is not a young girl suffering from royal life. She is a master manipulator controlling Harry like a violin, and the symphony she composed is a melody of victimhood, emotional coercion, and identity politics. She knows exactly what she's doing, Tate says. She has used race tears. Hollywood allure everything to control the narrative, and Harry, he's fallen into her trap. Tate argues that any form of racism in everyday life is baseless and unfounded. He points out she's lighter than I am, and I'm sure I haven't suffered any racism, so I don't think race has anything to do with it. He suggests that the issue at hand is not rooted in race, but rather in Meghan's character. She's just someone who's not liked, he states. In his view, the real issue is Meghan's lack of popularity and the way she's perceived by the public. The image Tate paints of Harry is harsh and unforgiving. Harry, once a rebellious, beloved figure within the royal family, has been reduced to nothing more than a shadow of his former self. His transformation, according to Tate, reflects the extent to which Meghan has manipulated and influenced him, pulling him away from his roots and the royal legacy he once embraced. For Tate, the real tragedy is not Meghan's rise. It's Harry's fault. He says Harry was the wild card, the soldier, the prince walking behind his mother's coffin, becoming a man respected by the world. Now he's become an empty shell. A man alienated from his family, detached from his roots, completely consumed by a woman who never truly embraced royal life. She isolated him, forced him to choose between her and his bloodline, and he chose poorly. What makes Tate's takedown explosive is not just what he says, but that he said it. In an age of performative wokeness and cancel culture, few dare challenge the official narrative about Meghan. Tate has shattered it. Society today, by any measure, is in complete failure. The cost of living crisis, crime rates, everything is collapsing. But according to Tate, the issue isn't Meghan or even Harry. The issue is a culture that refuses to call things by their real nature. The royal family was never the bad guy, he says. The media was never racist. The issue is that we live in a world where truth is overshadowed by emotions. Whether you love or hate him, Tate's comments have opened a door. Suddenly, people are starting to talk, reassessing what they thought they knew about Meghan, Harry, and everything else. This ties into one of your bigger themes that men today seem to be accepting the idea of becoming victims. Since that explosive interview, reactions have poured in from all corners of the internet. Meghan's supporters call Tate's words toxic masculinity on steroids, while those who criticize Sussex praise him as someone speaking the truth, finally saying what everyone else is too afraid to. With a wristwatch, you are a grown man. You are a fully mature man. When was the last time you had a serious issue in your life that you completely ignored and it just solved itself? Tate asks. Never. Never. What are any of our politicians doing to fix any of this? However, one thing is clear. Meghan Markle's public image is more fragile than ever, and if voices like Tate's continue to grow louder, the fairy tale that the Sussexes have been trying to write for themselves may not have a happy ending. Because the more layers are peeled away, a cold idea begins to take root in the listener's mind. Perhaps, just perhaps, Tate was right. One of the reasons a person becomes resilient and strong is because they have gone through great pain and trauma. However, instead of letting these wounds weaken them, they actually become the driving force that propels them towards success, helping them overcome life's challenges and difficulties. This shows that people can grow stronger from pain and suffering. If Tate brutally brought down Meghan Markle, his dissection of Prince Harry's collapse is not like an ordinary attack, but rather a cold, unforgiving surgery. However, the surprising truth is that Tate doesn't just blame Meghan in this story. He doesn't only criticize Meghan for negatively influencing Harry, but he also reserves his harshest blows for Prince Harry himself. He believes that Harry, once a rebellious and beloved royal, is now just a shadow of himself. Tate views Harry as someone who destroyed himself and lost his strength when he left the royal family. Harry's downfall is not only the result of manipulation, but also a voluntary choice where he abandoned his fame and responsibilities, turning himself into a character who is unrecognizable in the public eye. Did he do that? Absolutely unacceptable. What about the issue of race? I mentioned it in the context of the ongoing debate between Harry and Meghan, their war with the royal family, their fight against the monarchy. In Tate's eyes, Prince Harry is no longer a prince. He's not a royal rebel. He's not a dignified war veteran. He's a walking, talking warning sign, a living billboard for the emasculation of men in the 21st century. He's been castrated. He's lost public respect. He's lost the respect of the institution he was born into, and Meghan is entirely responsible for that, Tate claims. Indeed. The standard of masculinity is that bad things happen to you and you absorb them, use them, and evolve into a more capable individual. If you look back, Harry was the wild card of the royal family, a soldier, a man who witnessed combat carrying the legacy of Princess Diana and the weight of the crown he never asked for. But now, in Tate's unfiltered view, Harry has gone from battlefield resilience to confessions on Netflix and therapy sessions in Montecito. He has gone from fighting in Afghanistan to reading books about trauma and crying on Oprah's couch. Tate asks what happened to him and repeatedly alludes to the fact that they believe they were ousted due to racism in the UK. According to Tate, Harry didn't just love, he submitted. And the price of that submission was not only his royal status, but his masculinity. Tate doesn't stop at personal criticism. He zooms out and places Harry at the center of something much bigger, the global breakdown of masculinity. And to be empowered, you must go through some things. To become a good man, you have to lead a difficult life. If you look at any superhero, their life is tough. That's the reality of it. And I think the villain in his worldview, Harry, is not just a man losing himself in a relationship. He's a symbol of what happens when modern society tells men that being strong, stoic, or self-reliant is wrong. Tate emphasizes that to become a good man, you have to have a tough life. That's the truth. And society today is rewarding weakness and punishing strength. And Harry, he argues, is the perfect case study. Once a royal soldier embodying duty and resilience, now reduced to an influencer pushing a platform that distorts talking points to fit Hollywood's progressive narrative. That's an absolute fallacy. And he's biracial, right? His circumstances, yes. I'm biracial myself. And while we're discussing the leaders of the UK for centuries, the British royal family was built on ideals, traditions, honor, and an unwavering stoicism. In Andrew Tate's eyes, Prince Harry has broken that legacy. Not just by leaving, but by the way he left. Not with quiet dignity, not with respect, but by making his departure public through podcasts, Netflix specials, and public therapy sessions. All of this turned the monarchy into a soap opera where everything was exposed and became the subject of public attention. And while Meghan often bears the brunt of the criticism, Tate argues that Harry is not just a victim of his circumstances, he was complicit in his own unraveling. He wasn't dragged into this life, he chose it. By stepping into this world and becoming a part of the spectacle, Harry lost his identity and core values rather than maintaining a serious image worthy of the royal family's legacy. He traded his royal armor for a social media-friendly sob story. A straightforward man. I'd be discriminated against for that before I'd be discriminated against for my skin color. I think that's just an excuse for her. This is where Tate targets his weakness. In his eyes, Harry isn't just lost. He's been domesticated. A man once proud, now stripped of his sharpness, his identity, and perhaps most painfully, his respect. It's not just about Harry's personal choices. It's about the message those choices send to men everywhere. That tradition is oppressive, that stoicism is outdated, weakness is everything, and strength, that's taboo. People, you can't immediately stand up and say it's because of my skin color. It might be because of your actions and some things you've said. I think there's probably no doubt anymore that she's faced racism. Essentially, Tate's monologue isn't just a critique of Prince Harry. It's a war cry, a sharp warning to men everywhere about what happens when they abandon their own identity to fit someone else's narrative. And to Tate, Harry isn't just a man who lost his crown. He's a modern example of how masculinity itself is under siege. And perhaps that's the real tragedy. Not the scandals, not the royal statements, but the quiet, steady erosion of a man who once represented something bigger and now represents nothing at all. And that's a real epidemic we're suffering from in the West. In one of his harshest criticisms, Andrew Tate doesn't just criticize Meghan Markle, he crowns her as the queen of modern narcissism. Not for tabloid clicks, not for the clicks, but as a cultural blueprint. A case study of how image victimhood and personal branding now matter more than truth, tradition, and accountability. To Tate, Meghan isn't just a controversial duchess. She's a phenomenon. Because who doesn't have one that's one you can have? Yes, as I've said, I've received death threats on social media and no one seems to care much. Well, I think that's probably undeniable. The problem I have with them, forget the crown and the tea parties. Tate describes Meghan as the most influential person of the 21st century. Not the kind of person selling lip gloss on Instagram, but the kind who sells victimhood for profit. One moment she's royalty, the next, she's a survivor of institutional oppression. Then suddenly she launches American Riviera Orchard, a domestic goddess with jars of jam and luxury candles. To him, every scandal is just another marketing opportunity. Every tear on camera is another step in her rebranding process, and every public incident, whether with the royal family Spotify or her own family, is just more material for her next chapter. Tate's accusation is blunt. Meghan never wanted the royal family. She wants their platform to be comfortable with it. People also feel uncomfortable talking about race. He claims she didn't join the palace to serve. She entered to leverage the global prestige of the royal brand to push her own. And once that system no longer served her story, she burned it down and rewrote herself as a wounded heroine. The bad guy and your ideas should be dismissed. And they failed me completely irrationally. And now people are starting to realize they were just lying. And now you're back on Twitter. You told me you left the platform the first time you were banned with 88,000 followers. How many followers do you have now, after a few weeks? Well, I've been back for 2 weeks. And when the world saw the royal family uphold their old mantra of never complaining, never explaining, Meghan embraced the opposite: public confessions, emotional interviews, and storytelling on Netflix, blurring the line between healing and hustling. If you're going to make accusations against an institution like the royal family and the monarchy, you really need to provide some evidence. You can't just spew this stuff and say, oh, someone's being racist. Right. Tate doesn't just call Meghan manipulative, he calls her a symbol. He believes she represents a larger social change, a place where people no longer seek truth but validation, a place where victimhood is power, where reputation is built not on service or talent but on drama division and buzzwords. That you are a dangerous person because you inspire people to think. They will come and they will turn virtue into a weapon. They will pick a buzzword. Racism, homophobia, misogyny, some buzzwords you can't argue with. They will take it. They will slap it on you. They'll stir up the media machine and try to spin it. According to this view, Meghan's greatest talent isn't acting or charity work. It's her ability to control the narrative, knowing how to flip public perception, how to play both the underdog and the icon, and how to turn every headline, good or bad, into brand value. She'll never be respected by the public. And being a snitch will never earn the respect of the people. And I think the issue with the modern world we live in is that so many long-standing traditions are being dismantled in real time. No matter what might be the most controversial, Tate continues to criticize the issue of race, this time accusing Meghan of using identity as a weapon. She admits she never faced racism until she joined the royal family, he points out. And even then, her statements remain vague, passing, and conveniently made. For Tate, Meghan's story isn't one of mistreatment. It's one of projection. A cleverly constructed campaign rebranding accountability into oppression and ambition into activism. No one looks at her and thinks, "Oh, look at how dark your skin is." So it's hard to believe this is the perspective she's aiming for, and it seems no one else is seeing it that way. The most chilling aspect of Tate's argument is this. He doesn't think Meghan is an exception. He believes she is a prototype for a new generation of public figures, self-absorbed individuals cloaked in the guise of empowerment influencers masquerading as victims and people who value attention over authenticity. This is a generation where superficiality and the need for constant validation have taken precedence over genuine actions and meaningful connections. She represents everything wrong with modern culture. He says it's not about doing good, it's about looking good while playing the victim. Something like the British royal family, which has been around for a long time, is an old tradition. One of the things that binds the UK together, one of the last things we have to sit there and insult and give away. And with each curated post, every interview with Oprah, and every lifestyle launch, Meghan proves one thing. You don't need the truth to be powerful. You just need a story that people are too afraid to question. Because in this new era of fame, perception is everything. And Meghan, she has mastered that. Does Meghan really represent the wrongs in modern culture? Or is she using perception to gain power? Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on upcoming videos where we'll continue to dive into controversial stories and reveal the truth behind what's really going on. And it allows you to have ideas within a vacuum where you can develop stories that are never direct. But according to Tate, the cost of this mastery isn't just Harry's crown or the British monarchy. It's the erosion of truth, the veneration of self-obsession, and the rise of a culture where narcissism wears a halo and dares you to contradict it. Trying to paint a negative image of it will upset many people. And you must prepare for that backlash. You can't say, "I've done things that upset people, but it has nothing to do with what I did. It's all because of my skin color." Furthermore, for Andrew Tate, the story of Meghan and Harry is merely a symptom, not the disease. The real disease is a modern world where the truth is shackled, freedom of speech is put on trial, and the media no longer reports but commands. Tate says, "We live in an era where stories are created, inconvenient truths are buried, and anyone daring to question the narrative is labeled dangerous. This is not just about royalty." He says the main issue is about control. According to Tate, she acts this way because she's not black, and that complicates everything. It's funny sitting here watching her sit there and say, "I think the truth is I don't know what's going on." It's ironic that she can say that, but Tate can't. However, Tate understands better than most the price one pays for challenging the narrative society has constructed. He wasn't just heavily criticized, he was even completely erased. This shift in his life is a reflection of how society treats those who dare to question and challenge widely accepted beliefs. Almost every major social media platform banned him. News outlets have defamed him. Activists called for him to be completely silenced. He's been branded a misogynist, a bigot, a danger to society. But even though he's been completely shut down, something crazy happened. He got stronger, and racism is one of them. You're absolutely right. People can simply shout that they are being racially discriminated against, and you're not allowed to challenge that idea. And I stand up and say that I don't think the issues with public perception about Meghan have anything to do with it. And that's where Tate flips the lens. He doesn't just see himself as a controversial figure. He sees himself as proof that free speech is no longer protected. It's allowed as long as it fits the approved narrative. According to Tate, we are being conditioned not to see reality, to politely nod at lies, swallowing contradictions without flinching. Tate believes modern society is suffering from intellectual tyranny, where questioning anything from race to gender to vaccines is considered heresy. You want to speak out about corruption? You're a conspiracy theorist. You have concerns about social agendas. You're bigoted. Criticizing a public figure like Meghan Markle. You're racist. It's true. I just don't know the details of the racism she says she went through. It's a tight ecosystem where thought crimes are punished by being silenced, mocked, or exiled from society. People are afraid to think, afraid to speak, afraid to feel. That's not freedom, that's programming, Tate says. However, especially the fact that she's not even particularly dark-skinned. I find it odd when so many people stand up to defend her. I've seen so many black liberals from all over the world stand up to defend her, talking about the race card race. In this manipulated culture, Tate argues authenticity is dead. What matters now is not the truth, but the image. Stories are edited like Instagram feeds with victims sold as virtues. And in this environment, Meghan Markle thrives. For her, it's not just about being protected, she's been elevated. A flawless story with built-in immunity. Criticism is dismissed as hatred, doubts are silenced. The truth is too risky to touch. She surpasses expectations not because she deserves it, but because the media has made her untouchable. She is not just a victim, but a star. Her story is protected, but there's an injustice in how others are treated, especially when Tate speaks up. Andrew Tate doesn't just criticize Meghan, but targets a system that protects those who conform, silences free speech, and punishes those who speak the truth. The feeling of being censored and controlled creates a culture where truth can be hidden or twisted. Tate sees the fight not just as Meghan or her supporters, but as a global struggle against a system that makes those who speak the truth into enemies. In Tate's view, this isn't just about one individual, it's about society. When people choose silence over action, when they close their eyes to the truth, the system wins. Tate continues to speak out, refusing to bow down, asserting that his survival is not just personal victory, but a resistance to an all-encompassing system of control. Tate criticizes not only Meghan, but also Harry, who has become a model of an emotionally fragile generation that seeks validation over power and responsibility. While Harry seeks healing, Tate thrives in adversity. Harry looks to confront his wounds, but Tate has built a brand on confrontation, unafraid of challenge. The comparison between Harry and Tate isn't random. Tate argues that Harry has abandoned core masculine values such as strength and independence. He believes those like Harry are hindering progress in masculinity. Tate is confident in breaking old rules while Harry bends himself to fit into a society that Tate sees as lacking lasting values. Harry is now more than just a royal without a crown. He's a symbol of lost direction. His struggle is not just personal, but emblematic of those seeking validation in a world where media holds the power. While Hollywood and media create idealized images, Harry feels like an outsider belonging nowhere. Harry left his family and royal duties to find freedom, but in the end, he found only isolation. He no longer knows who he is, and this leaves him disconnected from both his past and his future. What he's left with is loneliness, a harsh lesson about sacrifice that cannot be avoided in life. Andrew Tate, despite being criticized and pushed to the fringes, remains resolute in exposing the truths he believes are hidden. In a world where everything seems controlled and concealed, Tate insists on the importance of standing up and speaking the truth. He condemns those who remain silent, ignoring reality because of fear and the desire for approval. People like Tate are a sign that despite the control and suppression, there are those willing to face the truth. Tate sits shirtless in a lavish complex discussing discipline dominance and the concept of being cancel-proof. It's not just a divide in lifestyle, but also an ideological divide. In the Tate-Harry story, you're labeled a racist, sexist, and a woman-hater. Tate laughs and insists it's obvious. It's crazy, isn't it? They call me racist, but I'm biracial from the start. Tate argues that Harry has built his post-royal brand around emotional exposure therapy talks and self-help podcasts, which Harry and Meghan have turned into an empire based on empathy and public vulnerability. According to Tate, that makes them a symbol of a generation that no longer confronts challenges head-on. Tate argues that Meghan not only hurt Prince Harry, but also symbolically weakened him. She turned him into a mascot for modern male passivity and sold their relationship like a reality TV show. This is a brutal accusation against Meghan and Harry's complicity in the process. According to Tate, Harry's downfall was not a kidnapping, but a voluntary surrender. This scene crosses the line. Tate said it's incredibly offensive. Tate strongly criticizes Prince Harry's decision to walk away from his royal family, his country, and the military legacy he was part of. According to Tate, Harry didn't make this choice for peace or personal growth, but rather to promote and build a brand, one that was embraced by Netflix. Tate argues that this shift in Harry's life has turned him into someone unrecognizable, not the man he once was. Instead of being the royal figure many admired, Harry now represents a brand and a narrative that Tate sees as far removed from his original identity. And that's why the attempt to cancel me didn't work. Tate continues pointing to his own experience. People will search for me wherever I go on the internet because they know I speak the truth. The debate between Tate and Harry is not just a story of two individuals, but a battle between two different perspectives on masculinity. On one side, we have the gentle, vulnerable man who expresses himself. On the other, there is the resilient, strong, unrepentant man. Tate believes that masculinity is not about emotional expression, but about bearing responsibility, power, and resilience. In his eyes, Harry is no longer the rock he once was, but a warning sign of what's missing in modern society. Harry now seems to belong to neither the British royal family nor the media world. He is a man without a country with nowhere to call home. This is a royal tragedy that Shakespeare might have written if the throne had been exchanged for a Netflix contract and the crown for a podcast microphone. Harry, once the beloved wild child of the monarchy, now seems trapped between two worlds that neither fully accepts him. Tate asserts that racism is not the issue in the UK. How then do we have a prime minister who's darker than her, a mayor of London who's darker than her? Tate questions. He then emphasizes that regardless of how you view yourself, Tate remains steadfast in his mission to restore traditional masculinity and expose what he sees as his enemies. And now Harry, or what he has become, is his biggest adversary. Harry's isolation, a man without a country or a planet, reflects a royal tragedy that many fail to fully grasp. Once the beloved wild child of the British monarchy, Harry now finds himself lost between two worlds not fully accepted by either side. His connection to the royal family has dissolved, burned away by interviews, accusations, and a memoir that leaves no room for ambiguity. Human beings and their skin color have nothing to do with this. It's ironic that no one wants to stand up and point out the obvious, that she is not seen like everyone else. On the other side, Hollywood, the land of reinvention, glitzy, progressive, and performative, but even there, Harry still doesn't quite feel like he belongs. Despite multi-million-dollar deals and star-studded events, he walks the red carpet like a guest who's overstayed his welcome. Wow, look how dark-skinned you are. It's hard to believe this is the perspective she's aiming for, and it seems no one wants to bring it up. And I don't understand why. Well, have you wondered if this is part of the Andrew Tate phenomenon? Because the bridge between Harry and the monarchy hasn't just been burned, it's been bombed. Harry and Meghan accused the company of racism, neglect, and calculated cruelty. The Queen maintained her dignity. Charles remained silent. William seemed to age 10 years overnight. But behind the royal calmness, there's a clear message: you chose your path. Keep walking. Sometimes pointing out the obvious to the point of bleeding, as you said, is impossible in the mainstream media. But Harry did that. He walked away from traditions, obligations, the cold palace, and a disciplined life. But in doing so, he didn't just lose a title. He lost a foundation. The people he had known his whole life suddenly became part of the enemy. In a world where we've seen harsh restrictions on free speech in recent years, yes, people are afraid to say that water is wet. And then I stepped in and said that water is wet, and everyone silently agreed. The coronation was awkward. Family reunions don't exist. His relationship with his brother, once unbreakable, is now nearly gone. And the press back home, they've gone from calling him a hero to seeing him as a heretic. You're right. It's terrifying how society is manipulated to the point where we pretend not to see everything and ignore our own eyes because we're afraid to speak out. It's terrifying. I mean, this is about race and family legacies, etc. But you can apply it to escape plans, California content deals, and brand partnerships that were never as perfect as they seemed. At first, Harry and Meghan were the darlings of Hollywood, the exiled royals, the charming victims of ancient oppression. Oprah gave them a seat, Netflix gave them millions, Spotify gave them a microphone. People saw everything and were afraid to comment on it. And this is where you truly step into the world of slavery, when you ignore your own feelings because you're scared to speak up and tell the truth. And I feel like I'm in a position of semi-privilege. They have. But fairy tales don't last long in LA, especially stories that keep dragging on with the same plot. Their Netflix series failed to win over the public emotionally. Spotify publicly canceled their deal. Meghan's podcast was stalled. And now the very world they hoped would embrace them is starting to whisper the same thing the royal family did. Enough. Hollywood likes a weak underdog, but they prefer a fresher face. So now, Harry is no longer a royal rebel. He's just another celebrity with a complicated past, and his media fan base is slowly shrinking. It's clear that they've relied on these big tech platforms for a long time to earn their income. So how can he overthrow that when he's been canceled? Yes, I've been thinking a lot. So now what is Harry? If he's no longer a royal and not quite a media mogul, then who is he? This is where the true tragedy begins. He has given up one identity without fully securing another. And in the void between those two identities, there is emptiness. Before I decided to become famous on these platforms, I knew my finances were always secured. And when they tried to cancel me, the man who once flew helicopters in Afghanistan is now promoting therapy apps and recounting his pain. The boy who once followed Princess Diana's coffin with silent strength now cries in front of the camera, self-analyzing so the world can see. I reached a critical threshold where people understand that what I say is true and genuinely beneficial to society. And after 3 years of living and emotional growth, I can't help but feel that Harry is bound. He's lost the foundation of his past, yet hasn't found a solid one for his future. He is a royal without a kingdom, a soldier without a mission. His legacy is now shaped by what he has left behind, not by what he has built. The pandemic, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but I will. The imaginary pandemic and the other frauds are real. In the journey of seeking acceptance, has Harry lost it all? He tried to rewrite the story, but did he unintentionally erase himself in the process? He's looking for validation from a world nourished by rumors, thriving on reinvention with no loyalty. Hollywood doesn't easily give second chances, and the monarchy rarely forgives public betrayal. I don't mean to say that CO doesn't exist as a disease, but when you control the semantics and the narrative of a situation, you control how people react. If you say the pandemic shows up in the news, then now Harry stands alone, not part of the royal family, not part of Hollywood, a global figure who no longer belongs anywhere. He traded a castle for content duty for a deal. In the end, perhaps love is not enough to keep him grounded. When the noise dies down, the book tours end and the cameras stop rolling what is left. But overall, I ask you a sincere question. Do you see the pandemic, isn't it? That you see everyone wearing masks because everyone is wearing them. Have you watched the news? A man who has walked away from everything and now realizes that perhaps everything has walked away from him. Isolation doesn't always mean physical distance. Sometimes the greatest silence comes from no longer knowing who you are. And in that silence, Harry may be facing the most painful truth of all. He left to find freedom, but all he found was loneliness. And I think people are waking up to that. But I also truly feel sorry. We are at the intersection of controversy and a culture that raises questions no one seems to agree on. Is Andrew Tate lifting the curtain to expose uncomfortable truths, or is he just setting the stage on fire to watch it burn? Because whether you love or hate him, you cannot ignore the storm he's stirred. In a world where information and power can be manipulated, can we truly see things clearly and fairly? You still feel fear even though you still have the New York Times, one of the most famous and powerful newspapers in the world. You still have independent media voices that oppose the mainstream are still being heard. You still have a gun, a symbol of personal power and the ability to protect yourself. So is that man, who might be speaking up in this unstable world, truly the voice of reason in a world where everyone is afraid to speak plainly? Or is he simply a representative of a weaponized form of masculinity, something that makes people fear and obey? Is what he's doing really an act of restoring traditional values, things that have been considered the foundation of society? Or is it really a strategy to shout louder than everyone else, to sell his power and push a narrative of fear in order to create influence and personal gain? All these questions reflect deep concerns about manipulation and power in modern society, especially when the truth is sometimes overshadowed by unclear motives and intentions. This highlights the importance of how they teach us to ignore our own eyes. You don't see the pandemic, but you keep walking around talking about it. When they can convince you to disregard your senses, the enslavement is complete. They know this. And in that roar, Tate laid everything bare, accusing Meghan Markle not only of taking down a man, but turning the monarchy into a personal empire. Tate portrayed Harry not as a victim of love, but as a cautionary tale. He's not just a person carrying the weight of a complicated past, but a living example of a generation facing burdens from unavoidable legacies. Now he carries a microphone and a memoir, but his reality has completely changed. Things are no longer the same. They can only tell you that the sky is blue and you're expected to sit down and comply with what they say. And that's exactly what they fear. They fear people like me, those who don't just passively accept everything, but inspire others to stand up and say, "No, I don't see that and I don't agree." So we've reached the end of this discussion. Has Harry been destroyed, or did he voluntarily disappear? Was Meghan the one who orchestrated his downfall? Or did Harry hand the crown over to her as Tate, right in criticizing Harry? Or is he just shouting into the void? Has she ruined Harry, or did he choose to surrender? And is Andrew Tate speaking the truth that many are too afraid to acknowledge? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Type 1 if you believe the truth will be revealed, or 0 if you think it will continue to be hidden. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates on this shocking story. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.